Next-gen graphics used to mean slightly better textures. Not anymore. These 20 PS5 games look so good, they'll make you question what's real. Some are obvious picks, others will shock you. And Game 7 has 300,000 rats on screen at once. Stay for that one. The most photorealistic game ever made. I'm not exaggerating. Hellblade 2 made me pause just to stare at Senua's face. Every pore, every scar, every tear rolling down her cheek looks real. Ninja Theory spent years on this, and it shows in every frame. The Icelandic landscapes feel like documentary footage until a monster appears and reminds you it's a game. Get this, they used real volumetric capture for the performances. The actors aren't animated, they're transferred directly into the game. That's why emotions hit different here. When Senua breaks down, you see real human pain. The combat is visceral and cinematic. Every swing has weight. Every impact makes you flinch. It's not a long game, 8 to 10 hours, but those hours are the most visually stunning you'll experience on any platform. The psychosis audio design through the DualSense is genuinely unsettling. Voices whisper from different directions. Your controller becomes part of the horror. If someone asks what next gen actually means, show them this. Not bigger worlds, not more content, just pure visual fidelity that makes everything else look like last gen. This is the benchmark. Everything else gets compared to this now. You've never seen this many enemies on screen. Space Marine 2 throws hundreds of Tyranids at you simultaneously, and somehow the PS5 doesn't explode. I counted over 1,000 enemies in one battle, not an exaggeration. The swarm tech here is genuinely unprecedented. You're a walking tank cutting through alien hordes, and every single enemy has full animation and physics. And listen, the scale is what sells it. You feel tiny ants waves of creatures pouring over walls and buildings. Then you charge in with a chainsword and become the monster they should fear. Gore splatters realistically, limbs fly. The destruction is constant and beautiful in the most violent way possible. The environments capture that grim, dark Warhammer aesthetic perfectly. Cathedrals the size of cities, industrial hellscapes stretching forever. Everything feels appropriately massive and doomed. Third-person shooters rarely look this good while rendering this much chaos. Saber Interactive pulled off something technical here that bigger studios haven't matched. If you want to feel like a superhuman warrior mowing through impossible odds while your screen fills with carnage, this delivers that fantasy with visuals that justify your PS5 purchase completely. The greatest redemption story in gaming history. Cyberpunk launched as a disaster on PS4. Crashes, bugs, graphics that look like a PS3 game. CD Projekt Red spent years fixing it, and the PS5 version is genuinely stunning now. Night City comes alive as art. Returnal doesn't have the most realistic graphics, but it might have the most beautiful ones. Housemarque turned bullet hell into visual poetry. Thousands of projectiles fill your screen in patterns that look like deadly fireworks. Every death is gorgeous. Every biome has a distinct color palette that burns into your memory. The purple spores of the first area, the crimson desert of the second, the underwater nightmare of the third. Each environment tells stories through environmental details you'll miss the first 10 times. What really sells it is the DualSense integration. Rain on the haptics, trigger tension on every weapon. You feel this game as much as you see it. The roguelike structure means you'll see these environments hundreds of times, and they never stop being stunning. 60 frames per second of pure spectacle. No loading screens, just instant death and instant beauty on repeat. Sony first-party quality shows in every asset. This couldn't exist on PS4. The particle systems alone would melt older hardware. If you want a showcase for what PS5 can do with effects rather than realism, Returnal is the answer. Nothing else moves like this. Nothing else looks like this. Housemarque made a tech demo that's also one of the best games of the generation. 300,000 rats on screen at once. That's not marketing, that's the actual number Asobo Studio achieved. A Plague Tale Requiem pushes rat swarm technology to genuinely disturbing levels. You watch tidal waves of rodents flood streets and devour soldiers in seconds. The sound design makes it worse. thousands of tiny feet, thousands of tiny squeaks. It gets under your skin. But the rats aren't even the most impressive part. The environmental detail rivals any AAA open world despite being linear. Southern France looks painterly and terrifying. Sunlight breaks through ruins, fog rolls across battlefields. Every chapter could be a desktop wallpaper. The character work on Amicia and Hugo carries real emotion through subtle facial animations. You believe these kids are suffering. You feel their exhaustion. 15 hours of gorgeous misery await you here. Plus, the DualSense makes the rats feel present. Haptic feedback simulates them swarming beneath your feet. It's deeply uncomfortable in the best way. A smaller French studio made this. Not Sony, not Microsoft. A team that started making flight simulators somehow delivered one of the generation's best-looking games. If you skip this because it seemed like a sequel, you don't need the first game. This stands alone as a visual masterpiece. Quick checkpoint. How many of these have you actually played? Be honest, because the next 5 get even more impressive. A tiny studio made this. Ember Lab had never made a game before. They were an animation company. Then they dropped something that looks like a Pixar movie you can play. I genuinely couldn't believe the studio size when I looked it up. The Rot are adorable little creatures that follow you everywhere. Dozens of them bouncing around with full physics and personality. The environments look hand-painted, but run in real time. Forests glow with magical particles. Ancient temples crumble with realistic physics. Boss fights have cinematic flair that rivals Sony first party. Here's the thing. This costs $40 at launch, not $70. $40 for visuals that compete with anything on the platform. The character animation on Kenna herself shows Ember Lab's film background. Every movement flows naturally. Combat has weight and feedback despite the cute aesthetic. 10 to 12 hours of pure visual joy. The photo mode alone will fill your capture gallery. If you skip this because it looked like a kid's game, you missed one of the generation's best looking titles. Proof that graphics aren't about budget, they're about talent and vision. A team of former animators outclass studios with 10 times their resources. This isn't even a game and it still belongs here. The Matrix Awakens is a free tech demo that shows where graphics are going, and it's terrifying how good it looks. Keanu Reeves appears on screen, and for a few seconds, you genuinely can't tell if it's real footage or rendered. That moment broke my brain. Epic Games built this to showcase Unreal Engine 5. The city has billions of polygons, literally billions. You can walk around a photorealistic metropolis and just stare at details. Puddles reflect accurately. Glass refracts light properly. Cars have interiors that nobody will ever notice, but they're there anyway. The crazy part is this runs on base PS5, not PS5 Pro. Regular hardware pushing visuals that shouldn't be possible yet. Download this immediately. It's free. Show it to anyone who asks what next gen means. The car chase sequence has explosions and destruction that look pulled from the actual Matrix films. Physics objects scatter realistically. Smoke and debris fill the screen without frame drops. This is a glimpse of what games will look like in 5 years. Right now, on your current console, free. There's no excuse not to experience this. Wait for it though, the next pick actually turned this tech into a full game. Ubisoft finally made those graphics matter. Avatar takes Unreal Engine 5 and builds an actual game around it. Pandora's jungles are the most detailed natural environments ever rendered. Every plant has physics. Every creature has subsurface scattering on their skin. Bioluminescence lights up the night in ways that make screenshots look fake. I spent the first hour just walking around touching things. The vegetation density is absurd. Push through ferns and they react individually. Fly on a banshee and watch the world stretch below you with no pop-in. The best part is the day-night cycle. Pandora transforms completely after sunset. Plants that look normal suddenly glow. Predators emerge with glowing patterns. The whole ecosystem shifts. Is the gameplay revolutionary? No, it's Ubisoft open world formula. But the visual execution elevates everything. Collecting plants becomes mesmerizing when they're this beautiful. Clearing out outposts feels fresh when the environment looks this alien. 40+ hours of visual spectacle. If you wanted to visit Pandora since the first movie, this is as close as gaming gets. The facial animations during cutscenes rival Hellblade. This is what big budget should look like. A small Korean studio made a Souls-like that looks better than anything From Software has released. I need you to understand how wild that statement is. Round 8 Studio created their first major game and it visually embarrasses the masters of the genre. The Victorian Gothic aesthetic drips from every frame. Rain-slick streets reflect gaslight. Puppet enemies have grotesque mechanical details that reward close inspection. Boss designs rival the best From has offered. Get this, the character model for P himself has more detail than most protagonists in bigger games. Watch his coat physics during combat. Watch the way light catches his prosthetic arm. These small touches accumulate into something that feels premium despite the studio's size. Environments tell stories through visual decay. Krat feels like a city that actually died. Buildings crumble logically. Streets fill with debris that makes sense. 25 to 30 hours in a world that consistently impresses. If you bounced off Elden Ring's open world for something more focused, this delivers tight level design with visuals that exceed expectations completely. Korean developers are coming for the throne, and this is their opening statement. Alright, real talk, we're halfway through. If you're still watching, you clearly care about graphics. Hit subscribe because the back half has some picks that might start arguments. You're a cat in a cyberpunk city and somehow that's enough. Stray proves you don't need massive budgets for stunning visuals. Blue 12 Studio built a neon-drenched world that feels lived in, despite being abandoned by humans. Every alley tells a story. Trash piles realistically. Robots have scratched paint and worn joints. The attention to small details makes the whole thing sing. And listen, the cat animation alone deserves awards. This isn't a human in a cat suit. This moves like a real cat. The way it squeezes through gaps, the stretch after waking up, the knocking things off shelves just because, motion capture couldn't achieve this. It's pure animation craftsmanship. The lighting sells the cyberpunk aesthetic completely. Neon signs cast colored shadows. Steam rises from vents with volumetric accuracy. Puddles reflect the chaos above them. 6 to 8 hours that never waste a single environment. Every location has visual purpose. The contrast between grimy slums and pristine upper areas tells class stories without dialogue. This is what indie ambition looks like when talent matches vision. A cat game has no business looking this good. Yet, here we are. Proof that art direction beats raw power every single time. Quick check. Did any of these surprise you? Drop a comment with your favorite so far. The next 5 go in a completely different direction. Soviet retrofuturism has never looked this unsettling. Atomic Heart built a world that shouldn't exist and makes it beautiful. Imagine if the USSR won the space race and built robot utopias. Now imagine those robots going insane. That's the vibe. Mundfish created an aesthetic that's genuinely unique in gaming. Red banners hang over chrome machinery. Pastoral gardens hide murderous automatons. The contrast between propaganda beauty and mechanical horror never stops being fascinating. What really sells it is the environmental storytelling. Every facility tells a story of ambition gone wrong. Posters promise a bright future while corpses litter the floors. The robot designs range from adorable to nightmarish, sometimes in the same enemy. Ballerinas that want to kill you, vacuum cleaners with attitude, giant spheres that absorb everything. 20 hours of visual weirdness await. The polymer glove effects look incredible during combat. Pulling objects and enemies with telekinetic goo never gets old visually. If you want something that looks like nothing else on PS5, this delivers that uniqueness completely. Western developers wouldn't make this, couldn't make this. The Soviet aesthetic requires cultural knowledge that Mundfish brings authentically, different in the best possible way. Tango Gameworks emptied Shibuya and made it gorgeous. Ghostwire Tokyo removes every human from one of the world's busiest districts and lets you explore the aftermath. The streets are frozen in time. Umbrellas lie abandoned. Cars sit empty at intersections. Clothes remain where people vanished. It's haunting and beautiful simultaneously. The crazy part is the detail density. This isn't a simplified game version of Tokyo. This is actual Shibuya recreated block by block. Konbini stores have accurate product placement. Vending machines glow with real brand colors. Alleyways twist exactly like the real city. Tangle staff reportedly walk these streets photographing everything. The visitor designs pull from Japanese folklore with modern horror twists.
Faceless schoolgirls, headless businessmen, spirits that move wrong in ways that stick with you. Combat involves hand-weaving that produces beautiful ethereal effects. Your fingers trace patterns that explode into colorful destruction. Rain effects deserve special mention. Wet streets reflect neon signs perfectly. Puddles form in realistic low points. The weather transforms the entire mood constantly. 15 hours exploring abandoned Tokyo. If you've ever wanted to walk through Shibuya completely alone, this is that fantasy realized with stunning fidelity. Plus, the photo mode is basically a Tokyo tourism simulator.
Dead Space's creator made something even more gruesome. Glenn Schofield left EA and built a spiritual successor that pushes gore further than ever before. The death animations alone took my breath away. Not because they're scary, because the technical detail is genuinely impressive. Watch your character get dismembered and tell me another game renders viscera this accurately. Oh wait, Black Iron Prison feels oppressive in ways that transcend the survival horror genre. Every corridor drips with industrial decay. Every vent hides potential death. The lighting creates shadows that move wrong. Enemies emerge from darkness with biological details that reward and punish close inspection. Wait for it. The enemy transformation system shows infection spreading in real time. Creatures mutate mid-fight. New limbs burst from torsos. Heads split into new mouths. It's disgusting and technically incredible. The environmental destruction adds chaos to every encounter. Pipes burst, walls crumble, steam obscures your vision at the worst moments. 12 to 15 hours of premium horror visuals. Yes, the combat received criticism, but visually, this stands with the best horror games ever made. Sometimes spectacle matters more than mechanics. This is that game. The next pick might start a fight in the comments though. Two worlds rendered simultaneously. Lords of the Fallen has a gimmick that sounds impossible. You switch between the living world and the dead world. Instantly. Both exist at the same time. Both are fully rendered. The technical achievement here gets overlooked because the game had a rough launch. But the dual realm system creates visual moments nothing else offers. Stand in a crumbling cathedral in the living world. Raise your lantern. Watch it transform into a hellish nightmare version of itself. Walls bleed, floors become flesh, architecture twists into organic horror. Then lower the lantern and you're back. The transition is instant and seamless. And listen, each realm has completely different enemy placements and secrets. You're essentially playing two overlapping maps at once. The Umbral realm in particular has a visual identity that burns into memory. Everything looks diseased. Structures grow like tumors. The sky itself seems infected. 30+ hours across both realities. CI Games fixed most launch issues, and what remains is genuinely ambitious. The Gothic architecture rivals Dark Souls at its best. If Souls-like fatigue has you skeptical, the dual-world hook provides enough visual novelty to push through. Nothing else looks or plays quite like this. Alright, final stretch. These last picks might be controversial. Some people love them, some people think they don't belong. Let me know in the comments where you stand. H.R. Geiger's nightmares become playable. Scorn isn't for everyone. I need to say that up front. This is body horror pushed to artistic extremes. Every surface looks organic. Walls breathe. Floors pulse. Doorways resemble orifices you'd rather not think about. The entire game feels like walking through the inside of something alive and wrong. Ep Software spent years crafting this aesthetic, and the commitment shows in every frame. No game looks like Scorn. Nothing comes close. The biomechanical designs make Alien look tame. Puzzles involve manipulating flesh machinery, weapons grow from your arm like parasites. The sound design amplifies every wet, horrible detail. Here's the thing though. The gameplay is deliberately slow and confusing. Many people bounced off it. Reviews were mixed for good reason. But as a pure visual experience, this stands alone. 8 hours of walking through art that probably needs therapy. The environments tell stories without words. You piece together what happened through observation alone. If you can stomach the aesthetic and accept the gameplay limitations, Scorn offers something no other game attempts. Pure artistic vision over commercial appeal. That's rare and worth experiencing even if you don't enjoy it traditionally. Sometimes games should challenge more than entertain. 10,000 assets rebuilt from scratch. Sony looked at a game that already looked incredible and said, not good enough. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered isn't a resolution bump, it's a visual overhaul that transforms the entire experience. Character models got complete rebuilds. Aloy's facial animations now match Forbidden West quality. NPCs that looked wooden before now emote properly. The environmental upgrades hit different when you're returning after years away. Foliage density increased dramatically. Draw distances push further than the original managed. Machine details pop with new textures and reflections. Get this, side-by-side comparisons look like generational leaps. Same game, completely different visual impact. The photo mode practically demands hours of your time now. Every vista begs for screenshots. 30+ hours of content that feels fresh despite being a replay for many. If you played the original on PS4, this justifies a full second playthrough. If you never played it, this is now the definitive way to experience Aloy's origin story. Guerrilla Games proved remasters can be more than cash grabs. This is how you honor a classic while pushing it forward. The machine designs in particular benefit from the detail increases. Watching a Thunderjaw up close reveals textures you never noticed before. They changed Peter's face and somehow made everything else better too. Spider-Man Remastered sparked controversy over the new character model, but beyond that discourse lies a genuine visual upgrade that showcases PS5 power. Ray trace reflections transform Manhattan. Every glass building mirrors the city accurately. Puddles reflect Spider-Man swinging overhead. Night scenes look completely different with realistic lighting bouncing everywhere. The best part is the performance RT mode, 60 frames per second with ray tracing active. That combination seemed impossible when PS5 launched. Now it's the standard way to experience the game. Web swinging at high frame rates with accurate reflections creates an immersion the original couldn't match. Combat benefits too. Faster response times make the flow even smoother. The city density increased as well. More pedestrians, more cars, more life filling the streets below. 20+ hours of superhero fantasy in the best looking version available. If you only played on PS4, the differences justify a revisit. If you're new to the series, this sets expectations dangerously high for other open world games. Insomniac delivered the definitive Spider-Man experience and then made it better. The sequel had big shoes to fill, and honestly, the remaster still competes. 4 ray tracing changes everything. Metro Exodus already looked impressive on last gen. The Enhanced Edition rebuilds the entire lighting system around ray tracing, and the results are transformative. This isn't ray trace reflections added on top, this is ray trace global illumination as the foundation. Every light source behaves realistically. Sunlight through windows illuminates dust particles, flashlights cast accurate shadows in dark tunnels, fire flickers and dances across surfaces naturally. The post-apocalyptic Russia setting benefits enormously. Abandoned buildings feel properly abandoned when light decays realistically through broken windows. Underground sections become genuinely terrifying when your flashlight is the only accurate light source. Plus, the haptic feedback makes every weapon feel distinct. The pressure on triggers varies by gun type. Reloading has tactile feedback. 20+ hours across varied environments. Desert wastelands, frozen tundras, lush forests reclaiming cities. Each area showcases the lighting system differently. 4A Games proved ray tracing isn't just a buzzword. When implemented as core technology rather than an add-on, it fundamentally improves visual storytelling. Dark areas feel dark, bright areas feel bright. Simple concept executed perfectly. PlayStation finally got the best-looking racing game ever made. Forza Horizon 5, arriving on PS5, ended years of Xbox exclusivity and brought photorealistic driving to Sony's console. Mexico stretches across 11 distinct biomes: jungles, deserts, cities, beaches, volcanoes. Each environment pushes different visual tech. The car models deserve their own category. Over 500 vehicles rendered with obsessive accuracy. Paint reflects environment lighting, interiors have functional gauges and stitched leather you'll never see during races, but they're there anyway. And listen, the seasonal weather system transforms entire regions. Dry lake beds flood, dust storms reduce visibility. The same road looks completely different across seasons. photo mode has ruined actual productivity for me. I've spent more time photographing cars than racing them. 40 plus hours of content if you chase everything. The Horizon series always understood that driving games should feel joyful. The visuals amplify that joy constantly. Every sunset makes you slow down, every rainstorm makes you appreciate the wipers working. If you avoided Xbox exclusives, you now have access to the gold standard of racing visuals. Nothing else comes close on any platform. Gran Turismo fans might argue, but they'd be wrong. Two masterpieces running better than ever. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves bundles Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy with PS5 enhancements that remind you why Naughty Dog leads the industry. The jump to 60 frames transforms combat and traversal. Nathan Drake moves with fluidity the PS4 versions couldn't achieve. Gunfights feel more responsive. Climbing flows more naturally. The visual improvements extend beyond frame rate. Textures got resolution bumps across both games. Character models receive subtle improvements. The lighting system takes advantage of PS5 horsepower for more accurate shadows. The crazy part is how well these games hold up. Uncharted 4 released years ago and still competes with modern releases visually. The Madagascar chase sequence remains one of gaming's best set pieces. Lost Legacy's Western Gods chapter offers exploration that rivals open world games in a linear package. 25 plus hours across both campaigns. If you never played these on PS4, this collection is essential. If you did play them, the improvements justify revisiting. Naughty Dog built these games to last, and the PS5 versions prove they succeeded. The perfect way to end this list. Pure quality from a studio that defines PlayStation excellence. 20 games that prove next-gen graphics aren't just marketing. From 300,000 rats to photorealistic faces, these titles push what's possible. Which one surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe for more lists that actually show you what your PS5 can do. See you next time.